Welcome to The Power of Tax Defense Attorneys, Tax Corner with Juda Gabaie.
Hello and welcome to The Power of Tax Defense Attorneys, Tax Corner with Juda Gabaie. I am your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're going to be talking about settling tax liabilities effectively, finding some common ground. Juda, welcome back. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate it.
So can you explain what a tax settlement truly means and why it often emerges as a lifeline or perhaps a pragmatic solution for taxpayers struggling with overwhelming liabilities?
Okay, so this is the biggest IRS resolution that taxpayers want to always try to do. A tax settlement, most commonly known as the offer in compromise. It's an agreement between the taxpayer and the IRS that resolves their tax liability for less than the full amount owed. It essentially allows a taxpayer to compromise their tax debt with the IRS, paying a reduced sum that the IRS agrees to accept as full payment of the outstanding tax liability. It's huge if a taxpayer can qualify, because it's literally a lifeline, and it's a solution for taxpayers that are struggling with overwhelming liability. And you hear many advertisement about this as known as the financial fresh start, and pennies on the dollar. This is what's known as the offer and compromise, the settlement.
Okay. And in your experience, what are the most common scenarios, or perhaps you might call it a financial tipping point, that will typically drive an individual or a business to explore a settlement with the IRS?
So the most common scenarios are the business or the individual is financially not doing well.
Right.
And what happens is we'll do a power of attorney. We'll pull the taxpayer's whole file and see, make sure all the returns have been filed. What are the liabilities? What are the interest, penalties, and tax? When is a statute of limitation? Federal taxes have a statute of limitation of 10 years. Now, that statute of limitation could be prolonged. There are exceptions for that. But, that's something that, we have to take a look at. And then the most important thing the government wants to see is financial. They want to see income, they want to see expenses, and if you're a business, they want to see profit and loss. There are a few more additional criteria that they want to see, but the most important thing and the most common issues when doing a settlement boils down to the financial. And a settlement could be a very good idea for many individuals or businesses. You just have to make sure that you qualify for it.
Yeah. So when a client walks through your door, or new client, and they have the situation, they want to look at possibly getting a settlement, what is your initial strategic framework for assessing their case?
The first thing, obviously, is we'll have them complete a financial. We'll make sure that they're in compliance. All the returns have been filed. And then based on that financial, we'll get backup documents to verify that the income and expenses are accurate. And then at that point, we'll take a look and see, okay, this taxpayer, is the business continuing, or the business is, going down? Is it appropriate now to do a settlement? For an individual, it's possible that they racked up a tax liability for a decade or more, and at this point they lived on a fixed income, or their income is not going to increase because they don't have a growth path. So that's something that we'll take a look at, and that actually helps. That increases their chances for an offer in compromise. Usually, I tell my clients the best time to file an offer in compromise is when you're financially not doing well. When you're doing well, then the government's not going to want to settle with you, right?
Right.
Because you have the ability to pay. But if you're financially not doing well, then that's when you want to do that offer and compromise, because that's where you're going to show the government, look at my income. This is my minimum income. This is what I have. There's no way I can full pay this liability within the statute of limitation. So we believe it's in the best interest of the taxpayer and the government to accept my offer, because over the time of the statute, you're probably not going to accept more than this. And that will be a determination that the offer examiner will, take a look at.
Beyond financial figures, are there maybe subtle yet critical factors that you weigh when evaluating whether a settlement is possible?
Yes, there are exceptional circumstances when it comes to health, medical issues. We have done offering compromises in the past where the individual had a disposable income, but they needed that disposable income for their continued living because of medical issues, major life event, or business. And we have had the IRS accepted. It's a special circumstances. It goes to a special department of the IRS when it comes for offering compromise. But there are criterias for those too.
What are the most well, I should say, like, don't give away too many of your secrets, but what are some of the consistently effective negotiation strategies and tactical approaches that you found work really well that have led to securing truly favorable settlement terms?
So it all boils down to, like we mentioned, the financials, but also at the end of the day, to put a compelling and persuasive letter to the government as to why the taxpayer should qualify for a settlement. And if there are any changes that are going to happen or that happened already, and why that should help the taxpayer for an offering compromise under the Internal Revenue Manual code. So it all is all going to depend on the facts of every single taxpayer. Every single taxpayer has different facts, different situation, and it's
Sure.
all really going to depend on that. And that would be the most important thing to take a look at is, what's the current situation of the taxpayer? What are they going through? What are their finances? Are there anything happening at their house, in their home? Do they have, a medical issue possibly with one of their dependents, with one of their kids? Is there an issue with another debt that they have? Is it possible they have other court order payments that could affect their ability to pay in the future? So, those are important stuff. The offering compromise has, a few options, right? One of them is doubt as to liability, right? Which means that I don't owe this debt and I'm contesting it. Another one is doubt as to collectability. I'll never be able to pay this debt in full. I'm asking the government to do a settlement. And the next one is the effective tax administration. And that's the one where, there are exceptional circumstances. And if the government does not do a settlement, it would cause a severe economic hardship or inequitable situation. And it's a higher bar, but it requires a compelling evidence of documentations, and we have done that. And when a taxpayer speaks with a tax professional, they should be able to guide them as to which offer and compromise is the most appropriate for them.
Are there any other strategies that you have found over the years that work when trying to get a good settlement?
You're definitely going to want to know the rules when it comes to offer and compromise better than the offer examiner. You want to make sure that the Internal Revenue Manuals, that in the back of your hands, and that would help you to negotiate with them. That's something that's very important. The second thing is, comprehensive and persuasive documents, right? The offering compromise unit is a unit that receives a lot of requests.
Mhm.
And you want to make sure that what you're providing to them not only is it persuasive, but you're also showing it documented and there's backup. And you want it to be very organized. And that's very important. And just like the hardship status, you want to put a compelling, well written narrative explaining why under the Internal Revenue Manual you qualify for the offer and compromise, and here are the facts, and you want to bridge the gap between the numbers and the human story, and I think that's very, very important to show. That's what I think is few of the most important stuff that need to be done in order to do an offer and compromise.
Are there common mistakes that taxpayers make that you often have to advise them to avoid?
Yeah, there are common mistakes when you doing an offer in compromise, right? The most important thing is to be very transparent with the government. and your financial shows everything. And if you fail to disclose something on the financial, then that would not look great in your favor. So it's very
Mhm.
important to take a look at that.
When we were talking about hardship status last episode, we talked about some possibly damaging misconceptions that clients can have. Do you find that there's some severe misconceptions that clients have regarding the settlement process as well?
Yes, there are many misconceptions, and I think one of them is the IRS will settle pennies on the dollar.
Mhm.
And it is a misconception in one way, in that not everyone qualifies for it. Have I done pennies on the dollar? Of course I have. I have done so many offers. I've done offers where individuals owe hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we settled for $5, $18, $100, a few $1,000s. I remember one of my first offers was I gave $5 and we got accepted. Um,
Wow.
and in fact, we could have even offered $1 because the rule says you have to offer something. Even if I offered $1, they would have accepted, because
I
if
can't
there's
believe they took that.
oh yes, because it's really based on the IRM rule, right? The IRM rule takes a look at not at the financial, right? That's the most important thing, at the income and expenses. And let's give you a hypothetical case, right? An individual that has racked up huge amount of tax liability, has no assets, and is now in his 60s, 65, 70, and the only thing that he has now is Social Security or pension. There's no way he'll ever be able to pay the tax liability in full
Right.
based on
Yeah.
his income. And that's where you make a persuasive argument to the government, and you provide documentation, say, hey, look, there's no disposable income, and you're required to give an offer. So you can give an offer for $1, $5, assuming that there's no disposable income and there's no asset. And we have done pennies on the dollar, but I will
Mhm.
tell you, to do an offer in compromise, there's qualification, there's criteria, and there's advertisement out there. There are many salespeople out there that will promise you pennies on the dollar. And I always advise people, and I always tell them, hire a tax professional, speak to a tax attorney, that all they do is tax controversy work. And they will be able to guide you and provide you with the right information in order to determine what resolution is best for you. And that's very important. And that's one of the most important. That's the reality of how it works when it comes to offering compromise. When I speak with my clients, I generally try to clarify for them, what the lowest possible amount that we can do with the government, and what the government could come back to us with a counter offer. There's something called the reasonable collection ability, right? That the government can collect from the taxpayer over the time of the statute of limitation for the liability. So that's something that they take a look at. And then the next misconception that I would say is, oh, once the offer in compromise is accepted, I, as a taxpayer, I'm completely free and clear and can go back to my old habits. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the terms of an offer in compromise is that for the next 5 years, you have to file all your required tax returns on time, pay all your future tax liabilities on time. If you fail to meet these terms, the OIC is defaulted and the original full debt is reinstated
Oh,
minus any
wow.
payments already made. I've had, over my career, individuals where we got them unbelievable offer and compromise, and they failed. I've seen them fail in the first, second, third year. I've seen them fail, and I've seen the debt reinstated. And I can't stress it enough. That's very, very important. And an offer and compromise is a fresh start, but it comes with probationary period. And for the next 5 years, you absolutely must stay current with all your tax obligation. If you don't, the entire full amount is going to come back. And that's your chance. I mean, you do it, move forward, be in the clear, follow the terms. It's very important.
Yeah, you're getting a bit of a lifeline here, but you gotta play nice for the next 5 years and do it and do it the right way. Wow, that's interesting. I did not know that. I did not know that. When you're building a compelling case for the tax settlement, you talked about, financial evidence, documentation, and that personal narrative. The personal narrative part is interesting to me. So they really look at this, how they look at the story for each individual.
Yes. So there's an offer examiner assigned to each individual case. You get the offer examiner's name, phone number, fax number. You'll work with that offer examiner in order to see whether the taxpayer qualifies for this offer and compromise. And it's very important to build a compelling case that hinges on a combination of irrefutable financial data, right? Strong backup documents, and a well articulated narrative for the taxpayer. And I find that to be the most persuasive and impactful when it comes to trying to get an offer and compromise approved. And besides the 433A, which is the financial form that needs to be completed, will provide that narrative in order to help and bridge the gap between the numbers and the human story. So the financial is very important.
Yeah, the human story part, it's just really interesting because, your conventional wisdom would say, oh, they're not going to read this. They've got too much stuff to do. But they actually do legitimately sit there and go, okay, what is this case? We're going to look at this from top to bottom, including the narrative, the letter. So beyond the immediate resolution, you talked about how you've got 5 years of you got to be good. You got to do your part and all that. What lessons or adjustments in future tax planning and compliance habits will typically emerge from successfully resolving a tax liability through settlement?
So if a taxpayer qualifies and gets approved for an offer in compromise or a resolution, first off, the elimination of the debt is a huge big deal.
Sure.
And it frees up not only the mental and emotional energy from the taxpayer, but it also gives the taxpayer the ability not to worry anymore about the past debt, but rather move forward with this free and clear mindset of filing future returns and paying them on time and in full. It gives the taxpayer the ability to start, building a retirement if they need one, right? Putting money away. And it brings financial to the taxpayers from my experience. And besides, the most important thing is the peace of mind and reduced stress, right?
Yeah.
I have many taxpayers that come to me and tell me, I haven't been sleeping in years at night. I'm worried about this. I every night I just want to put this to bed. I don't want to think about this anymore. And that's the number one thing is let's put this to bed, call it a day, and let's go from there. And then obviously, you'll continue to get your refunds in the future because you no longer have the liability. But taxpayers that have come to me and they have to resolve this ultimately tell me, I'm very happy we hired you to begin with, and I'm very happy with where we are right now. And I can't believe that I'm here. Not some taxpayers have been going through this for decades,
Mm-hmm.
and now they're free and clear. And so you got to take one step at a time. But
Right.
we'll get you there. We'll get you into the finish line. Every taxpayer qualifies for a resolution. The question is going to be which resolution.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That peace of mind, that weight off your shoulders. I could imagine that being pretty freeing for people for sure.
Yep.
For sure. All right. Well, thanks for listening to the Power of Tax Defense Attorneys Tax Corner with Juda Gabaie. To connect with Juda, visit reliabletaxattorney.com. And don't forget to leave us a review, subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much, Juda. Another great episode. Really appreciate all the insight.
Thank you, Kevin. It's great always talking with you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.